Chapter 568. Lei Ming guessed Immerse's cultivation level and made up his mind. Then he said to the mustache man, "Alright, you guys are tired today. Go back and rest." The mustache man and the other 5 people felt as if they had been pardoned. They said thank you, master, and quickly retreated. This master was much easier to get along with than the young master. At least the master always looked very kind. The young master, on the other hand, was temperamental. Take today's matter for example. They were clearly avenging the young master, but in the end they were beaten by the young master. How could this be reasonable? Actually, they didn't know that the truth was the opposite. Lei Ren was indeed temperamental. But whether it was joy or anger, it was all on his face. It could be seen at a glance. Lei Ming was the exact opposite. He always had a kind look on his face and seemed to be very kind to everyone. But in fact he was quite shrewd. Before these family retainers entered the city lord's mansion, Lei Ming had already checked all of their backgrounds. He even knew what their ancestors had done 3 generations ago. That night at 3 o'clock, Lei Ming's eyes quietly opened. His left hand gently stroked his right wrist, and an air screen appeared above his right arm. This air screen was implanted with a chip in his right arm. When needed, as long as his left hand gently stroked his right arm, the air screen would be called out. On the screen was the situation in the guest room. In the Lei family there were a total of 10 guest rooms. Half of them were equipped with atomic cameras. This kind of molecular camera directly used every oxygen atom in the air as a camera. The air in the entire room could monitor the people in the room 360 degrees without any blind spots. This technology was obtained from a cutting-edge laboratory with great effort. Ordinary dragons had never even heard of it. The air screen implanted in Lei Ming's right arm was connected to the atomic camera. He saw that Immerse was sleeping soundly in the room. But Lei Ming didn't immediately move. Instead he observed for more than half an hour. When he realized that Immerse didn't even turn over in this half an hour and slept like a dead pig, he sat up. With a thought, something appeared in his hand from the miniature space. This was because he had a miniature space with him. Some spatial dragons would create miniature spaces and implant them into the AI chip. Then they would implant the chip into the nerves of his arm. When needed, he could summon these miniature spaces with just a thought. Of course, this kind of miniature space was extremely expensive. Ordinary dragons could not afford it at all. Only wealthy clans and sects like the Lei family would have 1 or 2 of them. The device in Lei Ming's hand could emit microwaves to scan the dragon's body. Based on the reflected microwaves, the strength of the dragon's cells could be detected and the level of the dragon could be determined. He turned on the microwave detector. Soon an invisible microwave was sent out. Their target was Immerse, who was in the guest room. A moment later, Immerse's rank was displayed on the device's air screen. Tier 4 Super Evolution. Hiss. Lei Ming couldn't help but gasp. He had originally thought that Immerse would at most be a rank 1 super evolved giant dragon. Who would have thought that it was actually a stage 4 super evolution? One had to know that after becoming a super evolved dragon, the gap between each level was huge. A tier 2 super evolved colossal dragon could easily defeat 10 tier 1 super evolved colossal dragons. On the entire Mica planet there were about 1.4 billion giant dragons. Among them, there were only about 10,000 super evolved colossal dragons. As for tier 2 super evolved colossal dragons, there were only about 2,000 to 3,000 of them. There were about 400 to 500 tier 3 super evolved colossal dragons. As for tier 4 super evolved colossal dragons, there were no more than 80 of them. The top 80 out of the 1.4 billion giant dragons. Just how strong was he? And such a giant dragon was usually the strongest in some sections. Or the strongest in some ancient clans. Which clan or force did this Mr. Imo belong to? Originally he wanted to investigate Immerse's strength properly after checking out his strength. But now he quickly dispelled this thought. What a joke, how could he offend a tier 4 super evolved colossal dragon? His Lei family was only considered the leader within a radius of 1,000 kilometers. And a tier 4 super evolved colossal dragon was not only strong individually, but the force behind him was definitely a powerful existence within a few 100,000 or even millions of kilometers. Although Lei Ming had some connections on the entire Mica planet, he had started from scratch after all and had only worked hard for a few thousand years. As for those tier 4 super evolved colossal dragons, which one of them did not have a background of at least 100,000 years? The ones with more than a few 100,000 years. Could not offend, could not offend. Lei Ming hurriedly kept the detector and turned off the screen. His heart that had not felt any waves for thousands of years was now thumping loudly. A Tier 4 super-evolved colossal dragon should have extremely sharp senses. Could it be that he felt that he was being watched the moment he entered the room? If he really knew. Damn it, wouldn't that be the end of it? The entire Lei family, the genes that he had worked hard with for thousands of years, would be destroyed because of his stupid decision. It's over, it's over. It's really over this time. He should immediately apologize and take the initiative to ask for his forgiveness. Since he was drinking so happily with Ren, he should have some feelings for Ren. If he asked nicely, he should not be too angry for Ren's sake. But thinking about it, if he went now and disturbed Senior Mo's rest, wouldn't that be a huge sin? Just like that, Lei Ming tossed and turned restlessly that night. He stayed awake until dawn, then he hurriedly got up. He ordered the servants to prepare toiletries. Then he personally carried them to the door of the guest room. When the servants saw that Lei Ming was actually so respectful to this outsider, they were all very surprised. They whispered in private, "That Mr. Mo who came yesterday must have an extraordinary identity. Otherwise, the patriarch would not be so respectful to him." This is the first time I've seen the patriarch personally deliver toiletries to a guest. It's really a miracle. Lower your voice. In short, we have to serve Mr. Mo carefully. If we offend him, I don't need to say the consequences. Speaking of this, the few of them secretly trembled in their hearts. Immorse did not know about this. He placed a virtual watchtower here last night and fell asleep peacefully. The watchtower did not sound the alarm, which meant that no one came to attack him. Naturally, he could sleep peacefully. Immorse did not wake up until the sun was high in the sky. The moment he opened the guest room door, he could not help but be stunned. He saw Lei Ming holding toiletries and respectfully standing at the door. Seeing that he opened the door, Lei Ming immediately put the toiletries on the ground, then half knelt on the ground and said in fear and trepidation, "Senior, please forgive me. I, Lei Ming, deserve to die. I had eyes but failed to see. Please forgive me." Senior Immorse was stunned. "You? What crime did you commit?" Chapter 569. Immorse was stunned when he saw Lei Ming's fearful look. "What did you do wrong?" It was just a simple question, but in Lei Ming's ears, it sounded like the other party was asking the obvious. He became even more fearful. I shouldn't have checked your level. I deserve to die." Hearing this, Immorse finally understood. It turned out that this fellow had probed his level while he was resting. No wonder he was so scared. Immorse stole Lei Ming's memory and found out that this guy not only checked his level, but also installed a surveillance camera in the room. Was he that perverted? Luckily, he did not do anything out of line last night. Otherwise, if this guy uploaded the video online, damn, he would become a celebrity. Alright, since this guy was so scared, he would add fuel to the fire. Thinking of this, Immorse revealed an unfathomable smile and casually said, "That's right. Do the guests of the Lei family have to worry about being exposed when they go to the toilet in the middle of the night?" When Lei Ming heard this, beads of cold sweat began to form on his forehead. Sure enough, he was noticed. The perception of a rank 4 super-evolved giant dragon was far beyond his imagination. He knelt even lower, his head almost touching the ground. "Senior Mo, please forgive me. I didn't mean to target you. I was just too worried about my son. Plus, the Lei family has a bit of status and reputation. I feel that everyone who gets close to the Lei family has a motive and I have to investigate them. That's why I made such a stupid move. Senior, please forgive me, Senior." By the time he finished speaking, the clothes on his back had already stuck to his back. When Immorse saw that this guy's thoughts had changed so much, he was also happy to see it. He immediately said, "Actually, you don't have to worry. I'm not from any big forces or sections. Tens of thousands of years ago, I was just a rogue cultivator. I found a place in the starry sky forest to cultivate. I didn't expect that everything would change when I came out." Hiss. Lei Ming did not neglect Wang Yi because he was not from a big force. Instead, he took a deep breath. If a giant dragon wanted to evolve to super-evolved, talent alone was not enough. Other than talent, you also have to consume a lot of resources. Cell enhancer, liquid cultivation box, universe environment simulation room. The investment involved was simply unimaginable to the average person. This was also one of the reasons that restricted Lei Ming from evolving into a super-evolved giant dragon. Only those sects and families in the star field with deep heritage and great influence could afford such a huge expenditure. If this senior MO was not from a large family, it meant that he had relied on his own strength to reach the 4th stage of super-evolution. How abnormal was this talent? It was said that in the history of the 10,000 Dragon Star Zone, there were only a handful of people who could cultivate into a super-evolved giant dragon with their own talent. In that case, this senior MO was definitely a rare genius. Of course, Lei Ming also doubted the authenticity of Mo Shi's words, but he quickly overturned his doubts. Was there a need for a super-evolved dragon to lie to him? This was like a giant elephant that could casually destroy the world of ants. Was there a need for it to deceive the ants? It didn't make sense. So in the end he chose to believe it. So what if he didn't believe it? Once this senior MO saw that he didn't believe him at all, he could easily destroy the Lei family if he angered him. From this point of view he could only believe it. Also, if senior MO didn't have any other power behind him, could the Lei family be his backer? With senior Mo's strength, as long as the Lei family could get on his good side, the Lei family would be invincible in the Cloud Sea planet. If senior Mo wanted to continue cultivating, he would need a huge amount of resources. Although the Lei family didn't have these resources, they still had some connections. When the time came, they could display senior Mo's strength in front of others, and it wouldn't be a problem to get these resources. This way, the Lei family and senior Mo would achieve a win-win situation. Thinking of this, Lei Ming's heart skipped a beat. In that case, even if the Lei family couldn't stand shoulder to shoulder with the super sects and families in the star field, at least in the Cloud Sea planet, they would definitely be considered a top power. Of course, all of this had to be planned carefully. It wasn't something that could be decided on a whim. At the same time, he had to observe senior Mo's character for a while. If this person was treacherous and more shrewd than him, then he definitely couldn't be friends with him. Mo Shi once again stole Lei Ming's memories, and he couldn't help but laugh in his heart. Since you have feelings and I am interested, then there's no harm in cooperating. However, he couldn't say this out loud. At the same time, he couldn't appear too shrewd. Thinking of this, he seemed to inadvertently sigh. After being in seclusion for tens of thousands of years, the sea has changed into mulberry fields. Before I went into seclusion, I didn't have any genetic code. This time, without a genetic code, I ran into a wall everywhere. If there's really no other way, I can only go to Planet Lord Yumu tomorrow, reveal my identity and ask them to create a genetic code for me. Sigh, but if that's the case, I'll have to deal with those people who talk like bureaucrats all day long. Also, the government can track me based on the genetic code. It's troublesome. Hearing this, Lei Ming's thoughts turned. He was trying to guess Mo Shi's intentions. It seemed like this senior needed a genetic code. However, he didn't want to go to the government. Or rather, he didn't want his whereabouts to be controlled by the government. In fact, thinking about it, it made sense. After cultivating to such a level, he still couldn't come and go freely. No one would be willing to do that. Therefore Lei Ming said, actually, if Senior doesn't mind, I can create a genetic code for Senior. Mo Shi shook his head. I heard that this bullshit genetic code has to be official. If it's fake, it'll be very difficult to get away with it. Lei Ming smiled and said, Senior, you don't know. In fact, when the government created the genetic code, they also left some backdoor codes. The government also considered that some big shots didn't want to be tracked all the time, so they left these backdoor codes for those big shots. A few years ago, I got such a backdoor code through layers of connections. I originally wanted to use it after I advanced to a super-evolved dragon. But looking at the current situation, I'm afraid I won't have a chance in this lifetime. So I gave it to Senior to use. Mo Shi was a little puzzled. Backdoor code? Lei Ming explained, this kind of backdoor code doesn't need genetic data. But when you scan the code, you can scan out an identity. It won't affect your normal travel and daily life. After you use it every day, if necessary, you can erase the traces of your use on the coding terminal that you carry with you. This can be considered a plug-in developed by the government. So no matter where you go in the future, you won't be afraid that someone will track you. Chapter 570. In the afternoon of the same day, Mo Shi got the backdoor code. After implanting the backdoor code in his body, he scanned it with the code scanner and found a virtual identity. Mo Shi then opened the backdoor code interface. With Lei Ming's help he deleted his scan record. In this way no one would know where Immorse was at this time. Immorse nodded with satisfaction, and it's quite useful. Lei Ming on the other hand was secretly delighted. This way Senior would owe him a favor. Even if Senior was not willing to work with the Lei family in the future, the favor of a rank 4 super evolved giant dragon would be worth it. What Lei Ming did not know was that because of the backdoor code he gave Immorse, the government could not track Immorse's location. This caused many giant dragons to die in the 10,000 dragon starfield. In the next few days, Immorse stayed in the Lei family. Lei Ming was very respectful to Immorse. When the servants of the Lei family saw how respectful Lei Ming was to this guest, they became even more respectful. Lei Ren did not know Immorse's true strength. Because he was familiar with Immorse at first sight, he brought Immorse around Hidden Dragon City every day. The entire Hidden Dragon City knew that young Master Lei Ren had made a new friend recently. They were also very polite to Immorse. Before Immorse came to the 10,000 dragon starfield he had always thought that it was very dangerous. Once his identity was exposed he would face the consequences of being hunted down by tens of thousands of dragons. However, he did not expect that after arriving he would just eat, drink and play. There was no danger at all. However, Immorse's nerves didn't relax. He took advantage of the time he spent on sightseeing and set up 100 virtual watchtowers around Hidden Dragon City. Only then did he relax a little. This morning, Immorse had just woken up. He habitually used his dragon's consciousness to scan the surroundings. Very quickly he found the main room where Lei Ming was. Other than Lei Ming, there were 2 other clansmen wearing the Lei family's uniform. Lei Ming frowned and asked, "How many of our clansmen were injured?" One of the clansmen replied, 23 of our clansmen died and 117 of our employees died. But the teacup in Lei Ming's hand was crushed by him. However, the tea did not flow down. Instead it was vaporized by a flash of lightning in his hand. The 2 clansmen lowered their heads, not daring to speak. Lei Ming asked again, "Are you sure it's the 2 clan?" One of the clansmen replied, "Our lightning attribute energy doesn't have much effect on them. Within a radius of a few thousand kilometers, only the 2 clans people are able to counter our lightning attribute. So, it's very likely to be someone from the 2 clan. 2 clan. Lei Ming's tone was filled with killing intent. Before the rise of the Lei clan, the 2 clan was the strongest clan within a 5,000-kilometer radius. After the rise of the Lei clan, the 2 clan was greatly affected in every industry. Thus 2 clan and Lei clan had always been at odds. The Lei clan wanted to destroy the 2 clan and the 2 clan wanted to destroy the Lei clan. However, because both sides were equal in strength, no one could do anything to the other. However, the friction between the 2 sides never stopped. However, despite the friction, the 2 sides had never fought over the dragon's life. Who would have thought that the 2 clan would be so cruel today, killing 23 members of the Lei clan and 100 employees? Lei Ming couldn't understand why the 2 clan would suddenly cross the line. Weren't they afraid that he would fight them to the death in a fit of anger? At this moment another person requested to see him. After entering he bowed and said, "Clan head, our informant in the 2 clan sent news that the 2 clan had some unknown method. Within a month 4 of their clansmen had broken through to rank 10 evolved dragons. Including their clan head, the 2 clan now has 5 rank 10 evolved dragons." Lei Ming couldn't help but feel angry. No wonder. No wonder. No wonder they dared to be so cruel. However, although he was angry, there was nothing he could do. Previously, both sides only had 1 rank 10 evolved dragon each. Thus they could restrain each other. Now that the other side suddenly had 4 more, the balance was instantly broken, and the 2 clan naturally became arrogant. Should he complain to the government about this? The government wouldn't care about such matters. In fact, the government couldn't wait for these clans to fight. Every single one of these clans would be destroyed. The more clans were destroyed, the easier it would be for the government to unify them. Otherwise, it would be like a warlord, it would be difficult to unify them. Since the government didn't care and he couldn't win, what should he do? After thinking for a long time, he finally made up his mind. He would ask Senior Mo for help. However, he didn't know if Senior Mo was willing to help. Thinking of this, Lei Ming immediately went to Immorse's room. At this moment Immorse had just woken up and washed up. Lei Ming ordered the servants to prepare food. Then he explained the situation. When he finished, the servants just happened to bring the food over. Lei Ming said, "Therefore I implore Senior Mo to help our Lei clan destroy the two clan." Hearing this, Mo sure was overjoyed. Slaying a dragon, he was more than happy to do so. Lei Ming continued, "After destroying the two clan, you can take all of their dragon coins. Our Lei clan will take over the two clans' assets, but in the future we will split the net income 50-50 with Senior Mo." At this point he seemed to be afraid that Mo sure wouldn't agree. He said, "Of course, if Senior Mo thinks it's too little, we can split it 60-40, or even 70-30. Senior Mo gets 70%, we get 30%. Mo sure listened with a smile on his face. The next moment he suddenly disappeared. Lei Ming was stunned. Where did Mr. Mo suddenly teleport to? However, the distance that a dragon could teleport to was not more than 1,000 meters. He immediately scanned the surroundings. However, he couldn't find any trace of Mo sure. He couldn't help but feel strange. At the same time, Mo sure teleported twice consecutively and arrived at the two clan 2,000 kilometers away. The two clans' courtyard was grand and majestic. The architectural style of the building was rough and unyielding. Almost all the buildings were carved out of stone. Then they were built into houses, walls, bridges. At this moment, Wang Yi, who suddenly appeared above the two clan, attracted the attention of the guards. In the two clans' courtyard, an alarm sounded. "Who are you? How dare you trespass into the two clan?" The patriarch of the two clan brought the 4 rank 10 evolved dragons and stepped out. The rest of the two clan members added up to about 300 people. Mo sure frowned slightly. That's too little. According to the system, this time he needed to kill 100 giant dragons to level up. Then he would need to kill 500 dragons before he could level up again. He originally thought that there would be at least 600 dragons here, but he didn't expect there to only be 300. However, if he wanted to level up, then so be it, there would be plenty of opportunities in the future. Thus, with a thought, a blue-white lightning condensed in his right hand. He swung his right arm lightly. Kacha. This lightning struck the head of the two clan. Chapter 571. Swish, swish, swish. The two clan head's body was covered in lightning. His entire body was sent flying by the lightning. When he landed on the ground, he had already turned into a charred corpse. Although the earth element did not fear the lightning element like the wood and water elements, one should not forget that the earth element was not an insulator. Lightning could still cause great damage to their cells. Furthermore, Mo sure was a rank 4 super evolved dragon. His energy far exceeded a rank 10 evolved dragon. Moreover, after evolving into a super evolved dragon, his dragon veins had mutated. His lightning was not the same as the lightning of a normal lightning element dragon. His lightning could suppress the self-healing genes of the giant dragons. Therefore, killing the two clan head in one move was a piece of cake. When the rest of the two clans saw this, their expressions changed greatly. Including the two clans' higher-ups who had just evolved into a rank 10 evolved dragon a few days ago. The clan master of a level 10 evolved giant dragon was so easily killed in one move? What kind of strength did the person in the sky have? One must know that the dragon clan's body and self-healing abilities were very strong. Even a super evolved dragon would have to put in a lot of effort to kill an evolved dragon. But now the clan head was killed in one move. What kind of strength did this person have? Could it be that he was the legendary ancient dragon? In the dragon clan's legends, no matter how talented a dragon was, they could only cultivate to a rank 10 super evolved dragon. They could not advance even one step further. Only those dragons with ancient bloodlines could break through the rank 10 super evolved dragon realm and reach the legendary ancient dragon realm. Ancient dragon. He was actually the legendary ancient dragon. It's over, it's over. Two clan, it's over. At the same time, the system's voice sounded in Mo sure's mind. Frowny face. Dragon clan's rage. 320. Dragon palace can be upgraded. Do you wish to upgrade now? Mo sure couldn't help being stunned. The dragon palace had just been upgraded a few days ago. After the upgrade, the refining stage evolved into the refining dragon stage. Every dragon refining platform could upgrade an ordinary human to an ordinary rank 1 colossal dragon every 10 days. He did not expect that it could be upgraded again in the blink of an eye. Upgrade. Mo sure said. The system's voice sounded again. The upgrade of the Dragon Palace will take 24 hours. The dragon refining platform cannot be used during the upgrade. Immorse was already prepared for this. Therefore he didn't mind. At this moment he glanced at the dragons below. There were 320 of them. At this moment, these dragons were fleeing in all directions. The patriarch had been killed in a single strike. If they didn't run now, what were they waiting for? Lightning began to appear on Immorse's body. At first the lightning was like a small snake flowing all over his body. But soon his entire body was covered with lightning. Gradually his entire body seemed to have merged with the blue and white lightning. From his appearance it was impossible to tell what he looked like. A thick lightning bolt with a diameter of 5 meters suddenly struck towards the ground. Crack! An earth-shattering sound rang out. The lightning struck the central watchtower of the two clans. The entire watchtower was instantly smashed into pieces and scattered in all directions. At the same time, the thick lightning instantly radiated outwards in the form of a net. Hey! At this moment the 322 clan people were all hit by the net. Lightning crawled all over his body. When the lightning disappeared, the 322 clan people had all turned into charred corpses. Thick smoke and dust rose from their bodies. 320 dragons were killed in a single strike. The power of a rank 4 super-evolved dragon was terrifying. At the same time, the system's voice sounded in Immorse's mind: frowny-faced dragon slaying. 321,100. Upgrade available. Do you want to upgrade now? Upgrade. Immorse said. This upgrade will take 5 minutes. The system's voice sounded. Immorse didn't stay any longer. With a thought, he kept the 321 dragon corpses into his space on Earth. Then he flashed and arrived at the surveillance room in the two clans' courtyard. He deleted the surveillance footage and took the astrolabe. Then he teleported twice and returned to the Lei clan. Lei Ming was slightly surprised by his sudden appearance. He was puzzled. Where did Senior Mo go when the dishes were served? Now that he teleported back, what did he do? However, he didn't dare to ask about Senior Mo's private matters. Immorse only said one sentence: eat. That one sentence made Lei Ming swallow back all the other words he wanted to say. Senior Mo was obviously not willing to help the Lei clan. He could only force a smile and said, Senior, please enjoy your meal. I've already eaten. Immorse didn't say anything and just continued to eat. Lei Ming had no choice but to leave resentfully. When he returned to his room, he summoned a few of the clan's higher-ups to discuss countermeasures. When the higher-ups asked for Senior Mo's help, Lei Ming shook his head slightly and sighed. Senior Mo, don't worry. Sigh. The higher-ups weren't fools. They knew that Senior Mo wasn't willing to help when they saw Lei Ming's expression. They didn't dare to say anything else and could only discuss other solutions. However, no matter how much they discussed, they still couldn't come up with a solution. In the face of absolute power, all plots and schemes were futile. Just when they were at their wits' end, a clansman's voice came from outside. Patriarch, there's news. Everyone quieted down. Lei Ming frowned slightly. The news from the past 2 days wasn't good. The two clans increased their attack on the Lei clan. Who knew how many properties were taken over and how many clansmen and employees were killed? Damn the two clan. Come in. Lei Ming said in a low voice. Soon the door was pushed open. A clansman walked in. That clansman's face was expressionless. This was what Lei Ming taught him. Don't show your emotions, be calm and collected. Only then can you achieve great things. Soon that clansman cupped his fists and bowed to Lei Ming and the other higher-ups. Jefeng elders, good news. Lei Ming and the other elders were stunned. With the Lei clan's current situation, there was good news? This came as a surprise to them. That clansman continued. The two clan was destroyed. Lei Ming and the other elders were stunned. What? Lei Ming felt that he didn't hear it clearly, or maybe he heard wrongly. That clansman spoke again, this time with a slightly higher voice. The two clan was destroyed. The 321 people in the two clans' courtyard had all disappeared in a single night, including their patriarch and the 4 rank 10 evolved dragons. At this moment the entire room was silent. Lei Ming and the other elders looked at each other. Finally, everyone's gaze fell on that clansman. That clansman felt a little smug when he was stared at by the higher-ups. I never thought that I was so important. Chapter 572. While Immorse was eating breakfast, the system notification sounded in his mind. Promotion successful. Name, Immorse. Level 5 Super Evolved Dragon, Level 10 Long Xianxia. Ability. Click to expand. Hearing the system's voice, Immorse couldn't help but be overjoyed. He leveled up again. It had only been 6 days since he came to the 10,000 Dragon Star Zone. He had leveled up 3 times in 6 days. If the other dragons knew about this, they would probably find a piece of tofu and kill themselves. One had to know that the dragons of the 10,000 Dragon Star Zone had long lives. And the increase of their cultivation base was based on their long lives, slowly cultivating and improving. For an ordinary dragon, it was already considered fast for them to level up 1 level in 100 years. Not to mention a super evolved dragon that was 2 realms higher than an evolved dragon. It was common for a super evolved dragon to level up 1 level in 10,000 years. And most of them would never be able to level up again in their lifetime. From this, it could be seen how terrifying it was for Immorse to level up 3 times in 6 days after becoming a super evolved dragon. At this moment he looked at the dragon slaying points in his mind. Dragon slaying, 221500. The next promotion required him to kill 500 dragons. And after destroying the 2 family this time, no family would dare to provoke the Lei family in the short term. It seemed that if he wanted to continue to level up he would have to leave the Lei family. System, sign in for a special event. Destroying the 2 family was considered a special event. If he signed in he should be able to succeed. Sign in successful. Sign in event. Destroy the 2 family. Sign in reward. Thunder Attribute Cultivation Technique, Thunder Dragon 9 Transformations, Thunder Attribute Skill, Thunder Dragon 9 Transformations. Immorse was speechless when he heard these 2 rewards. Did he sign in the wrong position? He clearly destroyed the 2 family, so why did he sign in a Thunder Attribute Cultivation Technique and Skill? Moreover, he didn't need to cultivate, so what was the use of this cultivation technique? Moreover, the name of the cultivation technique and the skill are exactly the same, isn't it a little too perfunctory? Immorse did not pay any attention to the cultivation method, instead he took out the Lightning Attribute Skill book, Thunder Dragon 9 Transformations. He looked at the introduction. Thunder Dragon's 9 Transformations. Controls the Thunder Attribute Energy to condense a Thunder Attribute Energy Dragon to attack. Upon reaching the 3rd transformation, one would be able to use the power of Heavenly Thunder to attack. At the 9th transformation the sky would be filled with thunderclouds, the sky would collapse and the earth would be overturned. That was interesting. However, this secret manual still needed to be cultivated, which left Immorse somewhat speechless. But soon he thought of a solution. With a stir of his mind he arrived on Earth. Then with a thought he practiced the Thunder Dragon's 9 transformations to the 9th transformation. In the next moment his Thunder Dragon 9 transformations had already reached great accomplishment. This was the benefit of Earth's space. Here he was a god. With a single thought all things were born. With a single thought, everything was destroyed. Training a skill was just a matter of minutes. Although Earth's space couldn't affect things in the real world, it was only limited to hardware. Now that I've already practiced it and it's already in my head, can you still dig it out for me? After that, Immorse tested the power of the Thunder Dragon's 9 transformations. In his right hand bluish-white lightning energy condensed. It quickly condensed into a lightning dragon in the sky. This lightning dragon was about 10,000 meters long. As it flew through the sky, sparks and lightning flashed along the way. It stirred up the clouds and its momentum was extremely terrifying. Lightning energy was the most unstable of all energy. Generally speaking, it was almost impossible to condense lightning energy into form. Therefore, when lightning dragons used lightning to attack, they would always release energy directly. They wouldn't condense energy pillars, energy blades, or energy spears like other dragons. But the Thunder Dragon's 9 transformations could do it. When Emma and the other 2 saw the clouds rolling in the sky with a terrifying momentum, their expressions changed slightly. More than 10,000 kilometers away, the large group of blood locusts slowly stopped devouring the dragon corpses. They looked up at the sky in horror. Crack, crack. The lightning dragon flew across the sky as if it wanted to split the sky into pieces. However, this was only the first transformation. Then, the second transformation, 1 dragon turned into 3 dragons. The momentum was even more shocking. The third transformation, 3 lightning dragons turned into 9. The moment the 9 dragons appeared, lightning began to appear in the clouds in the sky. This was because after reaching the third transformation, one could use dragons to trigger astronomical phenomena. One had to know that the power of nature far surpassed that of any creature. Even dragons were no exception. If one could trigger the power of nature to attack, how violent would it be? However, Immerse didn't attack at this moment. Instead, he wanted to continue to the fourth transformation. However, soon the energy in his body was on the verge of exhaustion. His current energy was only enough for him to use the third transformation of the Thunder Dragon. However, it didn't matter. Immerse's mind moved. The energy in his body was instantly full. He continued to the fourth transformation, 27 lightning dragons. The fifth transformation, 81 lightning dragons. The sixth transformation, all the way until the ninth transformation. In the sky, thousands of lightning dragons appeared. Immerse calculated silently in his heart. There should be 6,561 lightning dragons. These 6,561 lightning dragons appeared in the sky at the same time. Their momentum was extremely terrifying. One had to know that each lightning dragon was more than 10,000 meters long, which was 10 kilometers long. More than 6,000 10-kilometer-long dragons would be more than 60,000 kilometers long if they were lined up. Moreover, more than 6,000 lightning dragons were still wandering in the sky. It caused the sky to be filled with dark clouds that pressed down on the ground. Thunder rumbled in the dark clouds as if it wanted to destroy the entire world. The entire world was illuminated in bluish-white by the lightning. The expressions of Happy and the others changed drastically. Although they knew that this was caused by Brother Immo, it would be a lie to say that they weren't afraid in front of the violent power of nature. Tens of thousands of kilometers away, the blood locusts that covered the ground like a blood-red carpet were so shocked that they hurriedly hid in all directions, trying to find a gap to burrow into. At this moment, Immerse's mind moved again. Rumble, crack, in an instant in the sky, countless huge lightning bolts that were hundreds of meters in diameter bombarded the ground. Boom, boom, boom. In just an instant the world was filled with bluish-white light. Other than this bluish-white light, nothing else could be seen. Other than the roar of the lightning, nothing else could be heard. After more than half an hour, all of this finally disappeared. Even Immerse was shocked by this terrifying momentum. It was the first time he had seen such a terrifying attack. Wait, the attack was clearly over. Why couldn't he see anything? He rubbed his eyes. Could he have seen wrongly? Happy, can you see anything? He turned his head and asked Happy. However, there was no trace of Happy. When he looked at Emma and her son again, they had long disappeared. It was not until a moment later that the bluish-white lightning completely disappeared. When the surroundings became chaotic, Immerse finally understood. He was immediately embarrassed. *CK I accidentally blasted Happy, Emma and the others into pieces. Chapter 573. Earth space was created by Immerse by imitating Earth. Under the attack of the Thunder Dragon's 9 transformations, the entire Earth had disappeared, and space once again fell into a primordial state of chaos. Could Happy and the others still be alive? Immerse scratched his head awkwardly. But when he scratched his head he couldn't touch it at all. He couldn't even reach out his hand. He tried again. *CK where did my body go? After a while he realized that even his body had been destroyed by this attack. At this moment he was only left with a ball of consciousness in space. Immerse was so embarrassed that he wanted to cry. Not only did he kill himself by testing a skill, he even accidentally blasted his girlfriend into pieces. *CK no one else could do this. With a thought his body recovered. With another thought the entire Earth's space was restored. All the flowers, trees, blue sky and white clouds were the same as before. Emma, Happy and the others still had extreme fear on their faces. Immerse hurriedly arranged, "Don't worry, I was just testing my skill. You won't be in any danger in this space." It was only then that Emma and Happy relaxed. But at the same time they were speechless. His body was blasted into pieces by you and you still say you're fine? At the same time in the Lei family's patriarch's room, Lei Ming and the elders of the Lei family were all looking at the clansmen. The two family was destroyed? Who did it? The clansman shook his head. I'm not sure. But from the looks of the scene, everyone from the two family must have disappeared in an extremely short period of time. Because there are no signs of fighting. It's as if everyone from the two family disappeared in an instant. Hiss. The elders all sucked in a breath of cold air. To be able to kill so many giant dragons in an instant, it must be at least a super-evolved giant dragon. Even super-evolved giant dragons would find it difficult to do so. Then could it be an ancient giant dragon? That's impossible. At this moment, a figure suddenly flashed in Lei Ming's mind. Could it be Senior Mo? Everyone shook their heads. Senior Mo is only a rank 4 super-evolved giant dragon. Of course he's also very powerful, but it's still difficult for him to kill more than 300 giant dragons in an instant. Lei Ming shook his head. When I went to deliver food to Senior Mo this morning, I asked him to help. At that time he didn't say anything but suddenly disappeared. In less than a minute he appeared before me again. Of course I found it strange, but I didn't dare to ask. Now that I think about it, could it be that Senior Mo went to the two clan and destroyed them in less than a minute? When he said this, some elders felt that it was possible. However, there was also an elder who said, but Mr. Mo is a rank 4 super-evolved dragon. It's impossible for him to do this, right? Lei Ming couldn't make up his mind either. After a while an elder said, that's right. Patriarch, why don't you go and sound Senior Mo out? Another elder immediately objected. Probing is absolutely not allowed. If you want to ask something, just ask directly. You can't beat around the bush in front of Senior Mo. If he angered Senior Mo, it would be detrimental to the Lei clan. Especially considering that Senior Mo might be the person who destroyed the two clan. Everyone quickly nodded. That's right. Patriarch, you have to ask him, but you have to ask him directly. Thunder nodded. Got it. Thus he simply packed up and went to Immerse's guest room again. However, when he arrived at the door, he saw that the door was wide open and Senior Mo wasn't inside. He didn't dare to use his dragon consciousness to check. He could only call the maid and ask, where is Senior Mo? The maid saw that the patriarch seemed to have something urgent and didn't dare to hesitate. He went to the backyard to play chess with the young master. Lei Ming hesitated for a moment, but still quickly walked to the backyard. If it was really Senior Mo, then they had to quickly thank him. Otherwise, if they were too slow, Senior Mo might be displeased. However, when he arrived at the backyard and saw Immerse and Lei Ming, he stopped in his tracks. Senior Mo didn't say anything because he didn't want to make this matter public. If he made a big fuss, would Senior Mo be even more displeased? Then wouldn't it be inappropriate for him to rashly ask around? For a moment, Lei Ming hesitated whether to go or not. At this moment, Immerse originally came to the backyard to play chess with Lei Ren. There was a type of chess in the 10,000 Dragon Pagoda called war chess. It was very similar to the Chinese chess on Earth. When the dragons had nothing to do, they would play war chess to pass the time. In the past few days, Immerse had been dragged by Lei Ming to play war chess. When he was on Earth, although his chess level wasn't high, no one in his class could beat him. Moreover, he had once won the second-class chess competition. Now it was naturally no problem for him to play this profligate son. Immerse was very happy to play chess when he had nothing to do. However, when he came to the backyard today, Lei Ren was cultivating. After cultivating for a while, he saw Immerse arrive and immediately said, Big brother Immo, you're here. Lei Ming didn't tell Lei Ren about Immerse's true identity. He thought that the reason why Immerse and Lei Ren got along well was because he liked Lei Ren's simplicity and lack of scheming. If he told Lei Ren, the two of them would probably no longer be able to get along as brothers. Immerse nodded and asked, a profligate son like you also knows how to cultivate? Lei Ren said, Big brother Immo, don't say that. Don't look down on me. I got into the best academy on Cloud Sea planet, the Cloud Sea Academy. Even if you have money and power, you might not be able to get in. Only absolute geniuses can. Immerse nodded. Oh, then why do you look so miserable when you're cultivating? It's like I stole your wife. Lei Ren didn't laugh. Instead he shook his head. Sigh, Big brother Immo, don't mention it. Ever since I became a rank 1 evolved dragon, I seem to have encountered a bottleneck in my cultivation. I also cultivated according to the method my old man taught me, but no matter how I cultivated, I didn't seem to make any progress. Hearing this, Immerse smiled. Have you ever tried to change the lightning attribute energy to the Dragon Abyss acupoint instead of the 9 orifices during the second circulation? Lei Ren shook his head. My old man has never changed the direction of the Dragon Abyss acupoint. If I rashly change the path of the energy circulation, there's a high chance that I'll go berserk. Immorse smiled. If you don't try, how do you know you'll go berserk? You might even break through on the spot. Hearing this, Lei Ren was slightly tempted. But he still shook his head. Break through on the spot? Big brother Imo, you must be joking. I just broke through less than 20 years ago and I can break through again? Then wouldn't I be a genius among geniuses? Then he said, but, you said to change the path of the energy circulation. I think, it shouldn't be a problem to try it out. Moreover, I have Big Brother Imo to protect me so I won't go berserk. With that, he followed Immerse's instructions and started cultivating again. Chapter 574. Lei Ren followed Immerse's instructions and began to cultivate. Lei Ming's heart skipped a beat when he heard this from afar. Could the path of energy circulation be changed so easily? This was the cultivation method passed down by the Lei family's ancestors. There could not be any mistakes. Once he made a mistake, he might go crazy. He had cultivated this way back then. His father and grandfather had also cultivated in this way. Why did Senior Imo have to change it? But if he went over and asked him to stop now, would he offend Senior Imo? For a moment, Lei Ming was anxious, but he did not know what to do. He had always been calm, but now he was like an ant on a hot pan. At this time, the energy in Lei Ren's body had already completed one cycle. During the second cycle, according to Immerse's instructions, the energy did not go through the 9 aperture acupoints, but instead went through the Longyuan acupoint. After a full cycle, he suddenly felt much more normal. In the past, the energy circulation had always felt sluggish. But now it was like a river that had just been cleared, very smooth. But now that he was cultivating, he could not be distracted. During cultivation, the energy had to be circulated for 81 cycles before it could stop. So he continued to circulate the energy for the second cycle. Then the third, the fourth, the fifth. It seemed slow, but it was actually very fast to complete one cycle. Within a few seconds, the energy was able to complete one cycle. In fact, it only took him less than 5 minutes to complete the 81 cycles. Just as Lei Ren finished cultivating and was about to stop, he suddenly had a feeling. His whole body trembled slightly. In the next moment, streaks of lightning crawled up his body. These lightning bolts were not as large as the lightning bolts when Lei Long released his energy. Instead, they were like small snakes that kept climbing on Lei Ren's body. It seemed that Lei Ren could not control too much energy and it was leaking out. It was not until a moment later that the energy that leaked out slowly returned to his body. At this time, Lei Ren's aura was at least 5 times stronger than before. Lei Ren opened his eyes at this time and looked at himself in disbelief. I broke through. When he spoke, his tone was full of disbelief. One had to know that he had just broken through more than 20 years ago. Usually, a person who could break through in 100 years was already considered a genius dragon. However, he had advanced a level in just over 20 years. Wasn't he a genius among geniuses? Of course, although he was surprised, he was not confused. He knew that this was all thanks to Immerse. If he cultivated according to the previous method, it would take him at least 100 years to break through again. Now, with just a few pointers from Big Brother Imo, he was able to achieve a breakthrough. When Lei Ming saw this scene from afar, he felt his body tremble slightly. With just a few words of guidance, he immediately broke through. This wasn't just too exaggerated, it was simply too exaggerated. Throughout history, no matter how powerful a giant dragon was, who would dare to say that they would be able to break through with just a few words of guidance? It never happened. What kind of mystical dragon was this Senior Imo? Of course they didn't know. Even Immerse himself didn't understand how he had suddenly become so proficient in cultivation. Actually, this was all because he had learned the Thunder Dragon 9 transformations. When he was on Earth, when he was learning the Thunder Dragon's 9 transformations skill, he also learned the Thunder Dragon's 9 transformations skill. Although he couldn't use it himself, there was no harm in having more skills. Who knows, it might come in handy in the future. And the Thunder Dragon's 9 transformations skill was a collection of Thunder attribute skills. It was a skill that was summed up from thousands of Thunder attribute skills. It was the most suitable skill for a Thunder Dragon to cultivate. After mastering this set of cultivation methods, he would be able to see the flaws in any cultivation method at a glance. At this moment after Lei Ren broke through, he hurriedly got up and bowed solemnly to Immerse. "Big brother Immo, thank you." His words were full of sincerity. Immerse waved his hand and said, "It doesn't matter. It's not even a slight effort. If you cultivate according to this method, I can guarantee that you will break through again within a year and break through to the 4th rank within 10 years. Within 100 years, you will break through to the 6th rank." Hearing this, Lei Ren's eyes were filled with gratitude. "Big brother Immo, I have nothing to repay you with. Why don't we go find a few girls to play with? My treat." Immerse. When Lei Ren heard Immerse's words from afar, he only felt that his entire worldview had been turned upside down. To be able to break through one rank within 100 years was already an absolute genius. But now, Senior Immo said that if he cultivated according to his method, he could break through to the 5th rank within 100 years. What kind of cultivation method was this? It was obviously a cheat. However, they did not know that Immerse actually had a trick up his sleeve. If Immerse directly taught Lei Ren the Thunder Dragon's 9 transformations with Lei Ren's talent, it was estimated that within 100 years he would be able to break through to the 10th rank and evolve into a giant dragon. Immerse's path had already been set by the dog system. He would definitely become the enemy of the entire 10,000 Dragon Star region in the future. Just now he saw the power of the Thunder Dragon's 9 transformations, so he would not teach Lei Ren all the Thunder Dragon's 9 transformations to create a strong enemy for himself. That would not be fun. At this moment, Lei Ming no longer needed to ask Immerse whether he was the one who destroyed the two family. A single sentence of guidance could let Lei Ren break through immediately. If he was not the one who destroyed the Lei family, who else could it be? He directly strode in front of Immerse and bowed. "Senior Immo, thank you for guiding my son's breakthrough. Our Lei family will never forget Senior Mo's great kindness." Immerse waved his hand indicating that it was no big deal. Then he stretched out his hand and said, "Get up." However, Lei Ming did not immediately get up. He remained half kneeling on the ground and cupped his fist. "Senior, I have a presumptuous request." Immerse had already guessed what he wanted to do, but he still asked, "What is it?" Lei Ming said, "Senior Immo, after I reach the 10th rank, I have not been able to break through for 1,000 years. Please give me a few pointers. The difference between a 10th rank evolved dragon and a 1st rank super evolved dragon. It seemed like a difference of only 1 rank, but in reality the difference in strength was like heaven and earth. The difference in status in the 10,000 Dragon Star region was also like heaven and earth. A 10th rank evolved dragon could at most occupy a radius of 1,000 kilometers. However, a 1st rank super evolved dragon could occupy a radius of 1,000,000 kilometers, or even tens of millions of kilometers. Every super evolved dragon could basically do whatever they wanted no matter where they went. Not to mention other things, just in the entire Cloud Mother region, there were only slightly more than 80 dragons that could reach the level of super evolved dragon. Just from the number alone, it could be seen how high the status of super evolved dragons was. Therefore, Lei Ming naturally wanted to ask Immerse for pointers. Chapter 575. Lei Ming begged Wang Yi for advice. After saying that, he was still a little nervous. Senior Immo was in his home, so he had to seize this opportunity. If he missed it, it would be the biggest regret of his life. But would Mr. Immo guide him? In Mr. Mo's eyes, he was just a small ant. Would a giant elephant waste its time for an ant? Lei Ren saw Lei Ming kneel down to Immerse and couldn't help but look as if he had seen a ghost. Hey, Dad, you kneel down to my big brother Immo? What do you want me to do?" Lei Ming glared at Lei Ren. "Senior Immo has been so kind to our Lei family, but we have nothing to repay him. What's wrong with bowing to Mr. Immo?" Immerse smiled faintly at this time and said, "Cultivate for a while and let me see." Lei Ming was overjoyed when he heard this. But soon he hurriedly calmed down and concentrated. He couldn't be distracted when cultivating. After taking a deep breath for a moment, his mood finally calmed down. Then he sat cross-legged on the stone bench next to him and cultivated for 81 cycles. Because he had been cultivating for thousands of years, his energy circulation speed was far faster than Lei Ren's. In a short span of 3 minutes, he had already cultivated 81 cycles. After Immerse finished reading, he nodded and said, "When your energy is circulating in your chest, don't go through the long high acupoint, Change it to the Lei gathering acupoint. Lei Ming was slightly puzzled. He and Lei Ren cultivated the same cultivation method. Why was the guidance now different from when he was watching Lei Ren? Immerse seemed to see his doubts and explained, every giant dragon has a different physique, different cell strength, different meridian strength, height, weight and other aspects. So the cultivation method can't be generalized. Must be different for each dragon. After hearing this, Lei Ming didn't dare to have any doubts. He immediately cultivated according to Immerse's method. After a while he felt that the energy in his body was very smooth. When he cultivated normally, when the energy passed through his chest, he felt a little sluggish. But this time there was no sluggishness. The energy obtained from one cultivation was actually more than the total energy obtained from hundreds of cultivation. Immerse continued. If you cultivate according to this method, you will be able to evolve into a super-evolved colossal dragon within 100 years. When Lei Ming heard this, he felt his body tremble. Advancing to super-evolution within 100 years. So fast. If Immerse knew about this, he would probably look down on him. Rising one level in 100 years was considered fast. If you knew that I advanced 4 levels in 6 days, wouldn't you be scared to death? Furthermore, Immerse had yet to impart the true Thunder Dragon's 9 transformations to him. Otherwise, he estimated that it would take him at most 10 years to become a super-evolved giant dragon. In the next few days, Lei Ming gathered the most talented clansmen of the Lei clan and had Immerse guide them. Those clansmen were basically all evolved dragons. There were level 1 and level 2, level 5 and level 7. After Immerse's guidance, he immediately broke through to the first order and second order. After a few days he broke through to the 5th stage. As for the 7th order ones, they also felt that they had benefited a lot. He estimated that he would be able to break through in a month. This greatly benefited the Lei clan. Thus, when the Lei clan took over all the 2 clans' assets, they gave all the dragon coins to Immerse. As a result, Immerse, who only had a few thousand dragon coins before, became a big shot with more than 10 million dragon coins. And this was because the 2 clans had too little cash. Otherwise, he would have become a billionaire boss. However, Lei Ming promised him that in the future, the Long clan's net income from the 2 clans would be split with Immerse 30 to 70. Immerse would get 70% while the Lei clan would get 30%. In this way, Immerse did not need to do anything and would have an annual income of over 10 million. The Lei clan only got 30%, which seemed very little. But one must know that without the 2 clans, the Lei clan was the largest power within a few thousand kilometers. Their businesses could expand rapidly, and the Lei clan's income could increase rapidly. Thus, the Lei clan actually received a lot of benefits. Immerse finally experienced the joy of becoming rich overnight. With 10 million in an instant, what should he do? If it were other giant dragons with this 10 million, they would probably buy a lot of cultivation resources. Things like evolution agents, cell strengthening fluids, etc. But Immerse did not need these at all. He had nowhere to spend this 10 million. As for indulging in debauchery, what a joke! How long would it take to spend all this 10 million? Moreover, the Lei clan would give him 70% of the 2 clans' assets every month. Thus, no matter how much money he spent, he would not be able to spend it all. How annoying. At the same time, the Dragon Palace's upgrade was completed. After the upgrade, the Dragon Palace had 100 dragon refining platforms. In other words, every 10 days the Dragon Palace would have 100 more giant dragons. This was an exaggerated number. And Immerse was also investigating the situation around these few days. He did not need to investigate the 2 clans' situation. The Lei clan would naturally take care of it from top to bottom and clean it up. No one would be able to trace it back to him. And for such a power there would be one less to destroy. If there was no special pressure, the government would be too lazy to investigate. Immerse's focus was on the laboratory. So many people in the laboratory were killed, it would definitely attract attention. As expected, under his investigation, 3 groups of investigation teams had already entered the laboratory. They even sent people to investigate the flaming continent. In the end, they did not find anything. After all, Immerse did a very clean job at that time. In the end, the government could only seal the laboratory. As for when it would be opened again, that was not certain. Maybe a month, 3 months, a year. Maybe it would never be opened again. As for the creatures on the flaming continent, they would be left to fend for themselves. After hearing this, Immorse was relieved. A month later, Lei Ren would go to the Mica Academy. Immorse also planned to go there to see if there was a chance to increase his strength again. Actually, if he was more violent, he could go on a killing spree, then his strength would increase rapidly. But who knew if there were some old monsters on the Mica planet that were tens of thousands of years old or even hundreds of thousands of years old. It would not be good if he was controlled at any time. Thus he would find a chance to slowly increase his strength. For example, if there was a war, he could directly participate. Or if there was a dragon plague outbreak, he could also participate. Wouldn't that be great? And now he planned to go to the Mica Academy with Lei Ren to find such an opportunity. At the same time, on the Flaming Continent on the first hunting island, everyone was in shock. On this day in the workshop where the refining platforms were, there were originally 10 refining platforms, but suddenly there were 90 more. The total number reached 100. Chapter 576. On the first hunting island of the Flaming Continent. On this day, Guojutao selected 10 people and planned to bring them to the refining platform. These 10 people were very excited. They had been waiting for so many days and now they finally had the chance to become a Grand Desolate Master. However, when they opened the door of the workshop where the refining platform was, Guojutao suddenly stopped in his tracks. Everyone stopped in their tracks as well. The workshop did not have the same 10 refining platforms as before, but there were many more. Everyone was stunned for a moment. What was going on? Guojutao was also confused. Logically speaking, the appearance of the refining platforms should have something to do with Mr. Imo. However, Mr. Imo had been gone for many days and now there were so many refining platforms here. This was inconceivable. Not only did the number of refining platforms change, but the appearance of the refining platforms also changed greatly. In the past, the refining platform was very simple. It was a round platform about a foot tall, and Guangrong would sit cross-legged on it to cultivate. But now each of the refining tables had a diameter of 1 meter, which was much wider than before. They were also 1 meter tall. Around each refining stage, there were many mysterious and profound talisman scripts. Just one look was enough to make one feel that it was unbelievable. Among these runes there were also some pictures that looked like giant dragons. Guojutao ordered his men to check all of the refining tables that had undergone changes. There were a total of 100 refining platforms. Then he called a few of the higher-ups of the base and the monk to study the refining platforms together. However, no matter how much they researched, they still couldn't come up with anything. In the end, the small monk said, "Damn it. Who cares? Let's just go up and refine it." However, the sudden appearance of the refining platforms made them feel uneasy. Who would be the first guinea pig? The monk shook his head helplessly. What's there to be afraid of? This must be Mr. Mo's doing. Don't worry, there won't be any harm. If you don't believe me, I'll be your guinea pig. Then he ignored Guojutao's attempts to stop him and jumped onto the refining platform. He nodded and said, "Yes, it's more spacious than the previous one. It's more comfortable." Then he sat on it and closed his eyes. No one knew if he was cultivating or resting. When the crowd saw this, they no longer tried to persuade him. Moreover, everyone was more inclined to believe that Mr. Imo was the culprit. Therefore he wasn't that worried. For the next 10 days, Guojutao paid close attention to the monk's movements. Fortunately, in these 10 days, the monk looked the same as the others who had stepped onto the refining stage. There were no changes. 10 days later, Guojutao personally came to the refining platform. He looked at the multifunctional watch on his wrist. There was only 1 minute left. He was slightly worried. He didn't know if this new refining stage would make people stronger or if it would have some negative effects. Furthermore, the monk had already stepped onto the desolate refining platform once before and was already a Grand Desolate Master. He didn't know what would happen in the next 10 days. However, in his opinion, this new refining platform must have been created by Immorse. Therefore, even if there was an impact, it would definitely be a positive one. However, at this moment he suddenly realized that something was wrong. An extremely powerful aura suddenly spread out from the monk's body. This powerful aura even sent Guojutao flying more than 50 meters away. Guojutao was shocked and was about to call for help. At this moment, crack crack crack. The crisp sound of bones breaking came from the monk's body. Guojutao exclaimed, "Monk, come down quickly." However, it was too late. The monk's body suddenly underwent a huge change. His arms quickly lengthened and a pair of wings grew out from his back. A tail grew out from his back. At the same time his body rapidly expanded. 10 meters, 20 meters, 50 meters, 100 meters. As his body continued to expand, the walls and the roof of the entire workshop quickly burst. Fortunately Guojitao dodged quickly. Otherwise he would have been injured. At this moment he looked up from the roof of the workshop that had been blown open. He saw that it was actually a giant dragon. The monk had turned into a giant dragon. Roar! The giant dragon roared towards the sky. Everyone in the base was horrified. They hurriedly came out and looked up at the giant dragon that had already rushed into the sky. Roar! Roar! Dragon roars continuously came out from the giant dragon's mouth. Everyone was greatly shaken. After a full 5 minutes, the giant dragon descended from the sky. Everyone couldn't help but retreat. Those who were timid were so scared that their legs went soft and they directly sat on the ground. A moment later, the giant dragon retracted its wings and said in a human voice, "See, I turned back into a human? Hey, who knows how I turned back into a human? This is urgent. Waiting online." Everyone recognized the voice when they heard it. It was obviously the monk's voice. How did the monk turn into a giant dragon? Guojitao also reacted. This is the effect of the refining stage. While they were talking, the giant dragon's body rapidly changed. Then a red-skinned monk appeared in front of everyone. "See." The monk hurriedly covered his face with both hands. "CK," someone reminded him, "shouldn't you cover your lower body?" The monk braced himself. "If I cover my lower body, won't you see my face? But if you cover your face, won't we see your lower body? And if you cover your face, won't we know it's you? Your big head is brighter than a light bulb." Guojitao reacted quickly. He hurriedly took off his coat and threw it to the monk. The monk tied the coat around his waist and immediately straightened his back. It was as if what just happened didn't happen at all. This guy's skin was really thick. He looked at his arms and body and asked Guojitao next to him, "Did you see it? A giant dragon?" Guojitao was a little confused and nodded. "Yes, a giant dragon." The monk scratched his shiny head. "Why the CK did I suddenly become a giant dragon?" Guojitao said. "Maybe it's the refining stage." The monk nodded. "That makes sense." Everyone around them was shocked and envious at the same time. The monk turned into a giant dragon. If I didn't see it with my own eyes, I wouldn't believe it. That night, Guojitao discussed with a few higher-ups in the base. First, they conducted a poll to see how many people were willing to become a giant dragon. In the end, almost everyone was willing. After all, giant dragons were not only powerful but also had a long life. Now that there was a chance to become a giant dragon, how could they refuse? Therefore, Guojitao and a group of higher-ups designed a selection process. Every 10 days, 100 people would be selected to go to the refining stage. In just 10 days there would be 100 more giant dragons in the base. Chapter 577. The people of the Flaming Continent had worshipped dragons for tens of thousands of years. But now more than 10 dragons had appeared in the base in just 10 days, which shocked everyone. Of course, the base was in the Dragon Palace. As long as they didn't fly out of the Dragon Palace, the people outside wouldn't be able to investigate the situation inside. Even if the investigation team came, as long as they didn't fly into the Dragon Palace, they wouldn't know that this experimental planet had started producing dragons. Although these dragons were only the most ordinary rank 1 dragons. But from humans to dragons, this was already a qualitative change. As long as the Dragon Palace continued to upgrade, the level of dragons it could produce would be higher and higher. Myriad Dragon Star Region Cloud Sea Star. Today was the day Lei Ren went to the Cloud Sea Academy. The Lei family immediately became busy. Madame Lei asked Lei Ming to bring a lot of food and clothes for Lei Ren. Other than that, the most important thing was to bring a total of 10 bodyguards for Lei Ren. Among these 10 people, one was a rank 8 evolved dragon, while the rest were rank 6 to 7. This was really extravagant. Lei Ming didn't want to bring so many people. After all, once these people left, a third of the Lei family's high-end combat power would be taken away. But he couldn't persuade Madame Lei, so he could only bring them along. At this time, Immerse also bid farewell to Lei Ming and said, Brother Lei is going to the Cloud Sea Academy and I happen to be going to the Cloud Sea City. I'll go take a look. Lei Ming was overjoyed when he saw this. With Immerse taking care of him, Lei Ren didn't need to bring so many followers to the Cloud Sea Academy. He didn't even need to bring a single one. Senior Mo alone is equivalent to an army of thousands of men and horses. Immerse also said, actually Lei Ren has grown up and he should be independent. You can take care of him for now, but can you take care of him forever? Sooner or later he will have to face some people and some things alone. But although Immerse said so, Madame Lei still didn't feel at ease. She had already asked people to find a place to stay in the Cloud Sea City in advance. She said that Senior Mo could stay there after going to the Cloud Sea City. At the same time, there were also some Lei family members and connections there. If you need anything, Senior Mo can just let me know. Immerse couldn't be bothered to say anything more. That afternoon he went to the Cloud Sea City with Lei Ren. Because Immerse was there, Lei Ming didn't send anyone else to escort them. Just the two of them rushed all the way to the city. Immerse did not use teleportation, nor did he use his lightning-attributed energy to fly. After all, he wasn't in a hurry. The two of them rode the mechanical flying beast that Lei Ming had given them and flew all the way to Ocean of Cloud City. This type of mechanical flying beast looked like a bird. There was a thruster under him. It could flap its wings like a real bird. Immerse sighed inwardly when he saw this. It was an ornithopter. In the past on Earth, someone had proposed the idea of an ornithopter. However, due to many technical problems, the ornithopter had never been realized. Even though there were models of ornithopters on the Flaming Origin continent, they had yet to realize manned flight. At most, it would be an ornithopter spraying pesticide. He did not expect that the ornithopter had already become a reality in the 10,000 Dragon Star area. However, the appearance of the ornithopter here did not have that kind of cool technological feel. Instead, it was made up of parts and gears that could be seen with the naked eye. It gave off a mechanical feeling that was visible to the naked eye. It was similar to the style of steampunk. This type of ornithopter did not fly very fast. However, the advantage was that it was much more agile than ordinary aircraft. It flew and flipped. It flew horizontally to the left and right. It hovered in the air. It could do almost anything that a bird could do. They rode the ornithopter and flew over a few cities before arriving above a forest. Immerse scanned with his dragon will and discovered that there were many star beast cubs in the forest. The so-called star beasts were those beasts that could survive in space. After these beasts grew up, they were extremely powerful. There were even beasts that were so big that they could devour planets. They were called star beasts. However, although these star beasts were powerful, their cubs could not survive in space at all. Therefore, they had to give birth to their cubs on some life planets. If these cubs were lucky, they would grow up to become real star beasts in the future. If they were unlucky, they would die halfway. In order to let their descendants gain experience, the giant dragons would not kill all of these star beast cubs. Instead, they would deliberately leave some for the low-level giant dragons to practice on. If the giant dragons killed too many star beast cubs, then the adult star beasts would cause trouble everywhere. If the adult star beasts went overboard, the giant dragons would kill a large number of star beast cubs. In this way, a delicate balance was maintained between the giant dragons and the star beasts. Because Lei Ren was spoiled by his mother, he had never come to the wild to hunt star beast cubs. Moreover, he had just become a rank 2 evolved giant dragon. Seeing that there were star beast cubs below, he could not help but be eager to try. Immerse did not mind. Since they were not in a hurry, he would play with him. After the ornithopter landed, Lei Ren could not wait to jump off. Immerse jumped onto a nearby mountain and admired the scenery here. Star beast cubs were also divided into different grades. The lowest grade was a 10-year cub. Actually, it was just hatched and ranged from 1 to 10 years old. Then it was a 20-year cub. Actually, it was a 10 to 20-year cub. 10 to 100-year cub corresponded to rank 1 to rank 10 of the giant dragons. Then 110-year cub corresponded to rank 1 of the giant dragons. And so on and so forth. Lei Ren asked Immerse, "Big brother Imo, if it were me, I would choose a 120-year cub, right?" Immerse shook his head. "In the end, you still chose a 100-year cub." Lei Ren shook his head. "Big brother Imo, you are underestimating me. Rank 1 corresponds to 10 years. As a rank 2 evolved giant dragon, it should correspond to 120 years. You just wait and see." Immerse did not say much. This young man had never suffered before. Let him suffer more and learn from his mistakes. At this moment, Lei Ren took out a detector from the chip's space. This detector was specially used to detect star beast cubs within a radius of 10 kilometers. Not only could it show the location of the star beast cubs, it could also show the number and grade of the cubs. Very quickly he confirmed that it was a 120-year cub that was alone. Then with a few leaps he arrived in front of the cub. It was a cub that looked like a crocodile. However, its body was more than 100 meters long. The scales on its back were triangular. At the end of its tail was a spiked hammer. Its pair of fangs looked very valiant. Seeing this, Lei Ren opened his mouth and let out a dragon's roar. However, the cub was not afraid of the dragon's roar like other creatures. When it saw Lei Ren blocking in front of it, it was furious. It also let out a hoarse but ear-piercing sound from its throat. Chapter 578. The star beast cub in front of him was called the star hammer beast. Although it was only 100 meters long, if it really grew into a star beast, it could grow to millions or even tens of millions of kilometers long. The hammerhead on its tail was even more powerful. It could easily destroy a planet with one hammer. Even though the one in front of him was only 120 years old and was equivalent to a rank 2 evolved dragon. In terms of strength, it had already surpassed a rank 2 evolved dragon. It was even possible to challenge a rank 3 evolved dragon. Although Lei Ren was already a rank 2 evolved dragon, he had only just advanced. In addition, his mother had spoiled him since he was young, so he had almost never really experienced it. Those who practiced with him on a daily basis also gave in to Lei Ren. This made Lei Ren feel that his strength had far surpassed his peers. That was why he made the absurd decision to challenge a 120-year-old star beast cub alone. If the servants sent by Lei Ming were here, they would definitely coax him. They would secretly help him kill this 120-year-old star beast cub. If that was the case, Lei Ren could forget about learning anything in his life. Immorse felt that this guy was simple-minded and wanted to teach him. At this moment, Lei Ren was facing the star hammer beast cub. Lightning energy condensed in his right arm. It directly blasted towards the star hammer beast cub. Swish, swish, swish. The star hammer beast cub's body was suddenly covered with lightning. However, not only did it not hurt it, but it also angered it even more. Roar, 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 roar. It opened its huge mouth and made a strange hiss from its throat. Then it shook off its 4 claws and rushed towards Lei Ren. It was stuck to the ground like a crocodile. But when it really ran, its 4 claws were like the pedals of a bicycle, swinging extremely happily. It was extremely fast. Within a few seconds, it was less than 20 meters away from Lei Ren. In the next moment it suddenly braked. And the hammerhead behind it used the huge inertia to fly over its head. It directly smashed towards Lei Ren. Its speed and momentum shocked Lei Ming. He quickly dodged to the side. Rumble. This hammer smashed into the ground. It directly smashed a huge pit with a diameter of more than 20 meters. At the same time, large cracks began to appear around the crater. Lei Ren was careless and directly fell into a crack. Fortunately, he could fly, so he quickly flew up. But just as he flew up, the huge hammer smashed down again. He was shocked. He hurriedly used his lightning-attributed speed to escape. However, the star hammer beast didn't care about him. It just kept smashing the hammer on its tail. It was very adept at using the hammer. Smash wherever he pointed. Bang! A muffled sound was heard. The giant hammer with a diameter of more than 10 meters smashed into Lei Ren's shoulder. Crack! Lei Ren's shoulder collapsed. His whole body was knocked away by a huge force. He flew for over 100 meters before crashing into a cliff. Rumble! The cliff behind him was instantly torn apart. It turned into hundreds and thousands of pieces of stone that rumbled down. Lei Ren was completely buried. Only now did the star hammer beast seem to have vented its anger. He let out a victorious roar from his throat and returned to the capital. At the same time, in the hidden Dragon City's city lord's mansion that was thousands of kilometers away, Lei Ming and his wife were watching this scene through the air screen. They didn't intend to monitor Immorse. Lei Ming didn't have the guts. On many planets in the 10,000 Dragon Star Zone, there were security monitoring systems that were responsible for monitoring the entire planet. This security monitoring system, like a satellite, could monitor any situation on the planet's surface from a low Earth orbit. As Madame Lei was really worried about her son, she asked Lei Ming to think of a way. Lei Ming could only ask his old comrade, the current head of the Planetary Defense Department, to get the real-time surveillance footage of his son. Then he saw this torturous and heart-wrenching scene. It was torturous to their son's body and their hearts. Madame Lei's eyes were filled with tears. No, I have to find my son. You have to send someone to find my son with me. Otherwise my son will definitely die there. Lei Ming hurriedly pulled his wife back. Madam, we dragons have extremely strong self-healing abilities. It won't take long for him to recover from such a small injury. Since we have already asked Senior Mo to find our son, if we send someone else, wouldn't it mean that we don't trust Senior Mo? I'm afraid it will cause Senior Mo to be dissatisfied. Madame Lei was furious when she heard this. Senior Mo, look at him. Our son has been beaten to such a state and he is still sitting on the mountaintop watching the show. He even said that he is our son's brother. Is there a big brother like him? Lei Ming hurriedly covered his wife's mouth. He said, Madam, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want. If Senior Mo hears this, our Lei family will probably be annihilated. It's not like you don't know how the two family was annihilated. In the time it took to say a few words, in less than 5 minutes, all 321 members of the two families suddenly disappeared. You still dare to say that? Madame Lei also realized the seriousness of the matter. Her expression changed slightly and she hurriedly kept quiet. Then she turned to blame Lei Ming. It's all your fault. I said I would send a few clansmen to protect our son, but you refused. What about now? Lei Ming shook his head and said, Actually, I feel that Mr. Mo is tempering our son. Tempering? That's right. In the past, because of our doting on our son has never really been tempered. You have to know that the outside world is far crueler than imagined. If our son hasn't been tempered, how will he face this cruel world alone in the future? Mr. Mo has seen this point, so he is using this opportunity to accompany our son to Cloud Sea Academy to let our son gain some experience. This way, when our son arrives at the academy, he won't be ignorant and won't be mocked by the other students. Madame Lei heard this and nodded. But then she said, That's true, but seeing our son suffer, I don't feel good in my heart. Lei Ming nodded. I know. But even if it's not good, we have to bear with it. Otherwise, when our son faces the world alone in the future and suffers, it will be a huge loss. Although he is called a hedonistic son, he hasn't experienced much and is too naive. It's too easy for him to be taken advantage of. Madame Lei nodded again. Yes, I understand. At the same time in the forest, under the cliff of the mountain that Immorse was sitting on. More than 10 minutes later, the pile of rocks flew away with a crashing sound. Lei Ming's figure climbed out from it. At this moment he was no longer the elegant young master he used to be. Instead he was in a very sorry state. His left shoulder had caved in, and a large piece of the clothes on his shoulder had been torn off. The current him didn't have the appearance of the number one hedonistic son within 1,000 miles. Chapter 579. Lei Ren crawled out from the pile of rocks in a sorry state. Even his shoulder had sunk in. Not only was he in a sorry state, he was in a miserable state. His left shoulder drooped as he looked at Immorse with a bitter face. He was angry and wronged. Brother, I want to kill the hammering star beast. Come with me now, I want to take revenge. Immorse shrugged. Go ahead if you want to take revenge, what does it have to do with me? Lei Ren said angrily. If that guy doesn't die, I won't be able to vent my anger. But that guy is too strong, I can't win against him. So brother Mo, please help me, I must kill him today. At the end of his sentence he was almost shouting. His eyes were bloodshot. Immorse laughed. Do you have to find someone to stand up for you every time you get bullied? Lei Ren raised his head. In Hidden Dragon City my father is the boss and I'm the second boss. Who dares to bully me? Immorse nodded. Then let's put it another way, do you have to stand up for your servants every time you bully someone? Lei Ren thought for a while and said, Sometimes the servants don't even need to do anything. When I go over, those guys will beg for mercy. Immorse laughed. That's because they are afraid of your father and the power of the Lei family. What if we get rid of the servants, your father and the entire Lei family? What else do you have? What else do you have? Lei Ren was stunned. The anger in his heart immediately disappeared. He had never thought about this before. He had always thought that everyone was afraid of him. If he wanted something, as long as he gave the order, everyone would rush to do it, afraid that they would be late. If he wanted to beat someone up, as long as he gave the order, everyone would help him beat them up. Sometimes that person would even kneel in front of him and let him beat them up. They didn't dare to fight back. But now, when Immerse raised this question, he thought of something for the first time. But after all, he had never thought about this before, so what he could think of was very shallow. Immerse laughed coldly. You can't even defeat a hammerhead beast cub of the same level, what else can you do? Once you go to the Ocean of Clouds Academy, your father won't be there to protect you, and everyone there is a genius there. All of them had power and background. Who would spoil you like your parents? I'm afraid he'll be beaten to death in less than a month. When Lei Ren heard this, his face darkened. Wang Yi sighed again. No one can grow up under their parents' wings. One day you will have to go out and face the world on your own. This world is 100 times crueler than anything you've ever seen. If you don't have sufficient strength, you won't be able to go far. Lei Ren's face darkened. After a long time he raised his head and asked, Big brother, then, what should I do? After all, he was just like a baby who had just come out of swaddling clothes. He had no knowledge of the world at all. Now that he was suddenly reminded by Immerse, there was only fear and panic. Naturally, he didn't have any ideas. Immerse shook his head and said, Don't worry. Go challenge the 100-year-old star beast cubs first. When your strength increases, come and challenge the hammering star beast cubs. Lei Ren said. But I'm afraid that will delay the start of the school. Immerse smiled. With your current strength, even if you make it in time for the start of the school, won't you be tortured everywhere? Why don't you get tortured enough here? When your strength increases, you can go to the academy to torture others. Wouldn't that be better? When Lei Ren heard this, his eyes lit up. Then he took out the star beast detector and scanned again. He found 100-year-old star beast, the carrying star beast cubs. The carrying star beast cubs were more than 80 meters long. They wriggled on the ground like a snail. At the same time, there was a boulder-like protrusion on its back. However, this protrusion was hollow. When it encountered a powerful enemy, its body would shrink into the boulder on its back and lie on the ground, pretending to be a boulder. When it grew into a real giant star beast, the protrusion on its back would completely grow into the shape of a planet. When it encountered a powerful giant star beast, it would shrink into the shell on its back and pretend to be a planet. This kind of star beast was weak in offense but strong in defense. It was suitable for Lei Ren to practice. Lei Ren jumped in front of the carrying star beast cubs. Seeing this, the carrying star beast cubs ignored him. It turned around and wriggled in the other direction. Wherever it passed, it would leave behind an oily trail. Lei Ren condensed lightning and threw it at the carrying star beast. Buzz buzz buzz. The carrying star beast's body was instantly covered with lightning. At the same time, some black smoke was emitted. A burnt smell spread out along with the black smoke. It was very unpleasant. However, this only made the carrying star beast cubs shrink their antennae. The next moment it opened its mouth. The tongue in its mouth was like lightning. It wrapped around Lei Ren and rolled into his mouth. The moment it opened its mouth, Immerse saw that its mouth was filled with triangular teeth. There was also a circle of teeth in its upper and lower palate and throat. If he was swallowed, he would be minced into meat paste in minutes. He couldn't help but be surprised. On the surface, this kind of star beast didn't seem to be aggressive. It was like a snail waiting to be slaughtered. He didn't expect it to have countless small saw teeth in its mouth. This guy's level was 2 levels lower than the carrying star beast. However, in terms of danger, it was much higher than the carrying star beast cubs. After all, no matter how powerful the carrying star beast was, it could at most beat Lei Ren up. Broken bones, arms and legs were nothing to a giant dragon. It wouldn't take long for them to recover. However, if he was swallowed by this guy, he would be minced into meat paste in minutes. Even with the self-healing ability of the giant dragons, it was impossible for them to revive after being minced into meat paste. When Immerse saw this, he didn't immediately take action. He wanted to see Lei Ren's ability to react on the spot. If this guy's ability to react was too weak, then there was really no need to spend so much effort to nurture him. In the hidden dragon city. When Madame Lei saw this scene, she instantly exclaimed, Ren. However, Lei Ming knew that Immerse wouldn't just watch his son get swallowed. Finally, when Lei Ren was about to be swallowed, Immerse moved. With a thought, he directly used energy to move a huge rock from the side. He threw it into the carrying star beast cub's mouth. Crack, 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 crack. That huge rock was more than 10 meters tall. However, when it was thrown into the carrying star beast's mouth, it was like being thrown into a stone crusher. It was quickly crushed into pieces by the teeth in its mouth. Immortal's heart skipped a beat. Good job. If it was allowed to grow, even a planet wouldn't be enough for it to swallow. Fortunately, with this block, its tongue also let go of Lei Run and retracted. Lei Run crawled up in a sorry state and hurriedly jumped away. In the hidden Dragon City's city lord's residence. When Madame Lei saw this, she heaved a sigh of relief. She clutched her chest. That scared me to death. Lei Ming also heaved a sigh of relief. I said that Senior Emma wouldn't just sit by and watch. Chapter 580. Lei Ren was saved by Immortal. He watched as the infant planet-carrying beast ate the stone like it was eating beans. Crunch, crunch, crunch. He furrowed his brows and released lightning energy at the baby planet-carrying beast again. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Once again, the young planet-carrying beast's skin started smoking due to the lightning. But this made it even angrier. It opened its mouth and its tongue shot out like lightning. It wrapped around Lei Ren again and pulled him into its mouth. Lei Ren seemed to be prepared for this. Lightning flashed all over his body. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Smoke came out of the planet carrier beast's tongue. It let go of Lei Ren and shrank back. Seeing this, Immortal nodded to himself. This brat still had some comprehension ability. Then Lei Ren fought with the baby planet carrier beast, which was 2 levels lower than him, for 2 hours. In the end, no one could subdue the other. The baby planet carrier beast saw how powerful Lei Ren's lightning was and immediately drilled into its stone-like shell. In this way, Lei Ren couldn't do anything to it. Immortal saw that Lei Ren kept releasing lightning, but the baby planet carrier beast didn't care at all. He shook his head helplessly. Do you only know how to release lightning? Don't you have any other skills? Lei Ren turned around and said while panting, It's hard to condense lightning energy. Our lightning-attributed lightning is very difficult to condense. Unlike other types of energy that can be condensed into blades, swords, light pillars and light blades, we of the Lei family fight directly with our energy. Immortal shook his head helplessly. This guy's combat experience was too lacking. He said, Try to condense a dragon claw. Lei Ren nodded. Soon his entire right arm turned into a 3-meter-long dragon claw. The blue-black scales on it looked very cool. Immortal said, Try to attach the energy to the dragon claw. Don't release it. Lei Ren nodded again and attached the energy to the dragon claw. At first it was hard to control. The energy would be released if he wasn't careful. After all, lightning energy was very unstable. It wasn't as easy to control as other energies. But after trying for more than 2 hours, he finally managed to attach the energy to the dragon claw. During these 2 hours he wanted to give up many times. Immortal only said one thing. Do you want to go from the number 1 hedonist to the number 1 joke? Although this guy was a hedonistic son of a rich family, his pride was still quite strong. After being provoked by Immortal, he immediately shook his head. No, I won't be a joke. Even if I go to Ocean of Clouds Academy, I'll still be ranked at the top amongst the new students. When Lei Ming saw his son's words on the screen, his eyes lit up. For so many years, his son had always been the number 1 silk pants in the area. He had thought of many ways to change this situation, but first, his wife was always obstructing him, and second, his son did not seem to want to change at all. Who would have thought that he would say something like that today? He knew self-respect. And all of this was because of the changes Immortal had brought to his son. Madame Lei couldn't bear to see her son suffer. But while he couldn't bear it, he was also secretly grateful to Immortal. If his son was still by his side, he would probably be a good-for-nothing for the rest of his life. At the scene, when Lei Ren added energy to his dragon claws and stabbed at the stone on the back of the planet-carrying beast that even swords couldn't cut open. Swish, swish, swish. After a few soft sounds, the stone-like shell on the back of the planet-carrying beast was instantly pierced through. Roar, hiss. The planet-carrying beast was instantly in pain and anger. Its upper body suddenly popped out of its shell and shot towards Lei Ren. No one expected that apart from its tongue, its head could also shoot out more than 10 meters. At the same time, it opened its huge mouth full of triangular teeth and tried to swallow Lei Ren. Lei Ren hurriedly raised his claws to block in front of him. But the planet-carrying beast's tongue shot out again, went around the huge claws and wrapped around Lei Ren. It quickly pulled Lei Ren towards its mouth. And because it was too close, it almost instantly pulled Lei Ren to its mouth. At this moment, Lei Ren finally released his lightning. Swish, swish, swish. The planet-carrying beast's body trembled. Lei Ren took the opportunity to cut off the planet-carrying beast's tongue with his sharp claws. Swish, swish, swish. Amidst the sparks, the planet-carrying beast's tongue was instantly cut off. Lei Ren pinched off half of the tongue, and the 3-meter-long sharp claws on his right arm slashed towards the planet-carrying beast. The planet-carrying beast hurriedly retracted its upper body and shrank back into its shell. At the same time, the whole shell started to roll. Who knew how it did it? It was like a rock rolling down a hill, quickly rolling into the distance. Lei Ren was still in shock. Looking at his sharp claws, his face was a little pale. That was close. He would have been minced into meat paste just now. At this moment, Immorse smiled and said, "This kind of fighting method is very harmful to the enemy. But at the same time, because it's close combat and extremely dangerous, you have to learn to be very flexible and able to adapt to the situation." After a while, Lei Ren finally came back to his senses. He nodded and said, "I will." Immorse continued, "I know that after a giant dragon transforms into its true form, its fighting method is to directly use its claws and fangs. Because the giant dragon's body is very strong, many giant dragons don't care about energy. And after transforming into a giant dragon, it's not easy to control energy, so it's very difficult to attach energy to the claws and fangs. But if you can attach energy to any part of your body through continuous practice, then your fighting power will increase by 100 times. With that, Immorse's right arm turned into a dragon claw. Lightning energy was attached to the dragon claw. Then his left arm turned into a dragon claw, and the energy was still attached to the dragon claw. Left leg, right leg, and even the tail behind him. His energy could be attached to any part of his body as he wished. This made Lei Ren feel envious. When would he be able to train to such a level? But while he was envious, he also secretly made up his mind to train to such a level. At the same time, Lei Ren saw this scene and was also quite surprised. He knew that when giant dragons transformed into human form, they could attach energy to any part of their body. But when transforming into a giant dragon, he had never seen a giant dragon do this. Could it be that Senior Imo could do it? If that was the case, then his fighting power would increase by 100 times. After another 3 days, Lei Ren was finally able to attach energy to any part of his body in his human form. And his fighting power had also increased greatly. When facing a planet-carrying beast, he could kill it in one hit. After killing more than 10 planet-carrying beast cubs in one go, he turned around and asked Immorse, "Brother Imo, how is it?" Immorse raised his head to look at the setting sun on the horizon, pretending not to hear anything. Chapter 581. "Brother Imo, how is it?" Lei Ren asked. Immorse acted as if he didn't hear anything as he looked at the setting sun. Lei Ren understood that he was still far from Brother Mo's requirements. Of course not. One must know that Immorse had been challenging those of a higher level all the way. At his peak, he had even challenged those of a higher level. Now this guy had only defeated a creature that was 2 levels lower than him, and he was already feeling complacent. This was the difference between dragons. Next, Immorse let Lei Ren challenge a 110-year star beast cub. In the beginning, Lei Ren was still flattered. But later on, Lei Ren completely grasped the method of attaching energy to any part of his body. Only then did he defeat that star beast cub. Next he challenged 2, 3, 5, a group. After 5 days he was finally able to challenge a group of 110-year star beast cub. Next he challenged a 120-year star beast cub. This time, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't defeat that star hammer beast cub. Not only was the star hammer beast invincible in attack, but its defense was also extremely strong and its speed was also very fast. If Lei Ren really wanted to defeat the star hammer beast, there was only one way: transform into a giant dragon. This was the magic weapon of all giant dragons. After transforming into a giant dragon, their fighting power would be completely unleashed. Their claws would be sharper and their defense would be stronger. Their fighting power would increase by at least 10 times. But Immorse said to Lei Ren, who was about to transform, "You haven't fully unleashed the power of your human body. You haven't fully unleashed the power of the lightning attribute energy. Lei Ren was a little confused. I feel that I have already used my human body to the limit. Even if I were to face a rank 3 evolved giant dragon, I would still be able to fight. Immorse smiled. In his right hand, a bolt of lightning was condensed. Then with a thought, the lightning quickly condensed into a ball shape. Then it condensed into a blade shape, a whip shape, a sword shape, and even a bow shape. This scene made Lei Ren's eyes almost pop out. At the same time, Lei Ming, who was watching the scene in front of the screen, also had his eyes almost fall out. Since ancient times, the lightning attribute energy had been extremely unstable. To be able to release it towards the target without deviation, one had to go through continuous practice. But now, Senior Mo was able to condense the energy into various shapes. This completely subverted their understanding of lightning attribute energy. At this moment, Immorse made another shocking move. His right hand condensed a ball of thunder attribute energy. Then, the lightning attribute energy actually condensed into a lightning dragon in the sky. The lightning dragon continued to fly and flicker in the sky, making crackling sounds. Even the clouds in the sky were slightly stirred up. In the next moment he swung his right hand down. The 100-meter-long dragon in the sky immediately descended towards a mountain. Crack. Rumble. The mountaintop exploded. 1,000 meters of the 5,000-meter-tall mountain was blown away. The flying rocks scattered in all directions, smashing and breaking the trees in the surrounding forest. Those baby star beasts were so frightened that they scattered in all directions. As for the group of Starhammer beast cubs on the mountaintop, they were all killed by the lightning dragon. One fell right in front of Lei Ren's feet. Lei Ren looked at the Starhammer beast cub that had countless cracks on its scales. He was so shocked that he was tongue-tied. Lei Ming also looked at this scene in disbelief. He knew that Senior Mo's strength was unfathomable. But the move just now did not use a lot of energy. Just that little bit of energy was able to produce such a huge power. This was really shocking. How did he do it? At the scene, Immorse said to Lei Ren, who was dumbstruck for a long time. This move is called Lightning Dragon 9 Transformations. The move I just used was the first transformation. If you can learn it, it won't be a problem for you to challenge someone 5 levels above you. Huh? Lei Ren was stunned. Challenge someone 5 levels above you. Did this have to be so King exaggerated? Immorse continued. Of course, Lightning Dragon 9 Transformations is not something that can be mastered overnight. But even if you master half of it, it will be enough to defeat someone 2 or 3 levels above you. Lei Ren's heart skipped a beat. What if I master it to the 9th transformation? When Immorse heard this, he recalled that he had accidentally destroyed the entire earth and blasted Happy into smithereens. Even his own body was blasted into smithereens. He coughed dryly and said, "Cough cough about this, you can talk about it after you master it to the 3rd transformation." Lei Ren probed again. Then Big Brother Emma, which transformation are you at now? Immorse smiled. You might know if you have the chance in the future. Lei Ren saw that he could not get an answer and could only ask. If I can really master it, then Brother Emo, I will be indebted to you. In the future, what's mine will be yours and what's yours will still be yours. Our Lei family will be forever grateful to you. Immorse shook his head and said, I just saw that you have some talent and was inspired to teach you a move or two. As for whether you are grateful or not, I don't care. Then, under Immorse's guidance, Lei Ren began to practice the first transformation of Lightning Dragon 9 transformations. Of course, Immorse would not teach him the true Lightning Dragon 9 transformations. Taking a step back, even if Immorse taught Lei Ren all the Thunder Dragon's 9 transformations, it would be very difficult for Lei Ren to master the 9th transformation in his lifetime. To be able to master the 5th transformation, he could be called a peerless genius. Moreover, the Lightning Dragon 9 Transformations technique required the coordination of the Lightning Dragon 9 Transformations technique in order to maximize his battle prowess. This practice lasted for a month. He had already missed the start of school. He had also completely missed the 2-month entrance exam after school started. The academy called Lei Ming 3 times and even said that if he did not come, they would revoke Lei Ren's enrollment. Lei Ming had a wider network and finally persuaded the academy's teachers to give Lei Ren a 3-month-long leave. Lei Ren could be considered the first person to apply for a long leave right after entering the academy. After a month, Although Lei Ren had not completely grasped the essence of the Lightning Dragon 9 transformations, his control of the lightning attribute energy had completely surpassed his father Lei Ming due to his continuous practice of the Lightning Dragon 9 transformations. He could use the lightning attribute energy to condense long swords, long sabers, long spears, long whips, etc. He could also condense a lightning dragon. However, the lightning dragon that he condensed would sometimes lack a wing or a leg. Sometimes, it would even be a headless lightning dragon. Compared to Immerse's lightning dragon first transformation, its power was naturally much weaker. It was naturally impossible to attract the clouds in the sky. Immerse could blast down a 1,000-meter-tall mountain. At most he could blast it down 300 meters. But even so, it was enough for him to defeat enemies 2 or 3 levels higher. If he was to deal with the Star Hammer Beast Cub, he would be able to kill it in one strike. If he was to deal with a 140-year Star Beast Cub that was 2 levels higher than him, even if he was unable to kill it in one strike, he would be able to make it turn around and flee. Chapter 582. With Lei Ren's current strength, if he used his full strength in his human form, it wouldn't be a problem for him to defeat opponents 2 levels above him. If the opponent was 3 levels above him and was slightly stronger, it would at most be a draw. If the opponent was slightly weaker, he could still barely win. Next, Immerse taught him how to condense energy in various parts of his body to attack enemies in his dragon form. This practice lasted for another half a month. During this time, Lei Ren would often complain. Immerse always used various methods to provoke him. Lei Ren had no choice but to grit his teeth and persevere. At this time, Lei Ren could already begin to condense energy in various parts of his body. He was no longer a simpleton who only knew how to release energy in battle. And he had barely grasped the Thunder Dragon first change. One strike could blow down a 500-meter-tall mountain. In a one-on-one fight, it wouldn't be a problem for him to defeat opponents 3 levels above him. The reason why Immerse was so patient and taught here for 3 months. It was because the matter of him destroying the laboratory was still under investigation. So he stayed here to avoid the limelight. When the limelight was more or less over, he would go out and cause trouble. At this time, Lei Ren's combat skills and experience were about the same. The only thing he lacked was actual combat. A real battle that would see blood. On this day, when Lei Ren was practicing, Immerse's dragon will suddenly detected 2 groups of people fighting more than 800 kilometers away. To be exact, 2 groups of dragons were fighting. It should be a group of dragons passing by on an aircraft. They were attacked by another group of dragons flying out of the forest. These 2 groups of dragons added up to about 50. The highest level among them was a 5th-level evolved dragon, and the lowest was an ordinary 8th-level dragon. It seemed that one group of dragons was robbing the other. In the Cloud Sea Star, some dragons were lazy and didn't do anything. They gathered together and specialized in robbing the passing dragons. These dragons were called dragon bandits. The officials of the Cloud Sea Star had once put in a lot of effort to control the dragon bandits. But because the forest on this planet was huge, the dragon bandits could just hide in the forest and it would be very difficult to catch them again. So it wasn't easy to control them. Immerse found that this group of dragon bandits had already killed more than a dozen dragon bandits passing by and left with their dragon coins and other valuables. Immerse glanced at Lei Ren, who was practicing the Thunder Dragon's 9 transformations, and said, "Let's go, I'll take you to have some fun." Lei Ren was overjoyed. He couldn't help but swallow his saliva. "After staying in this forest for 3 months, my mouth is so bland. Finally, I can eat something good." Immerse didn't say much. He took Lei Ren and flew towards the location of the dragon bandits as fast as he could. The flight lasted for more than 2 hours. 2 hours later, they arrived at the mountain where the dragon bandits were hiding. Lei Ren asked in confusion, "Big brother Imo, is there a restaurant here?" Immerse pointed to the dense forest on top of the mountain and said, "That's right. There are people in the forest." Lei Ren was delighted and said, "Then let's go down." Then he jumped down. Soon they arrived at the dense forest. There was a cave in the middle of the forest. There seemed to be the faint sound of human voices coming from the cave. Lei Ren turned around and asked Immerse, "Big brother Imo, is this the place? It doesn't look like a place that can make good food." Immerse smiled and said, "Not all restaurants that can make good dishes are big. Sometimes small families can also make good food." Lei Ren nodded and immediately walked towards the entrance of the cave. Then he said, "If there's anything good, take it out." He said it in a commanding tone. It was no wonder. He had been a playboy since he was young and everyone around him coaxed and spoiled him. Since he was young, his words were evidence of orders. Immorse almost laughed in his heart. This guy was so innocent that he was cute. Soon someone inside heard the sound and rushed out. It was 3 burly men. The 3 of them were just ordinary dragons. When they saw Lei Ren and Immorse, they couldn't help but be angry. Damn it, it's always been grandpas who steal other people's food. No dragon dares to steal grandpa's food. Today is the first time you've done so. Immorse hurriedly pointed at Lei Ren. It's not me, it's him. The 3 burly men saw that although Lei Ming's clothes were dirty, they could tell that they were expensive. They were secretly delighted. Then they scolded Immorse, "I don't care who you are. Since you're here, leave your dog head." With that, the 3 of them attacked Immorse and Lei Ren together. Seeing this, Lei Ren glanced at Immorse. Immorse said, "Looks like we've encountered the dragon bandits." Lei Ren finally understood. He immediately turned around, his eyes wide with anger. When encountering the dragon bandits, it was either you die or I live. Although he had never fought with the dragon bandits, he had fought many star beast cubs in the past 3 months. So he wasn't afraid at all. With a flash, he dodged the attacks of the 3 dragon bandits. His right arm turned into a dragon claw and condensed energy. Swish, he slashed across. The 3 dragon bandits were directly cut in half at the waist. 3 dragons, 6 pieces. Blood splattered all over his body. Under the lightning attack, the dragon bandit cells were also greatly damaged. After being cut in half, their recovery speed was also much slower. Immorse said, "Tow's the time." It was Lei Ren's first time killing a dragon. He suppressed his disgust and kept waving his sharp claws. He didn't stop until the 3 dragon bandits were cut into pieces. Even if the dragon race had an abnormal recovery ability, it was impossible for them to recover after being cut into pieces. Just as he finished, Lei Ren turned around and bent over. Ugh! He almost vomited all his internal organs out. After all, it was his first time killing a dragon. It was normal for him to not adapt physically. Immorse chuckled in his heart. He still had to get used to it. However, after adapting to the environment here, he would be much faster than his classmates when he entered the school. This could be considered as winning at the starting line. Just as he was thinking to himself, a system notification suddenly appeared in his mind. Frowny face Dragon Slayer. 224,500. Immorse couldn't help but be overjoyed when he heard this notification. Previously, his Dragon Slayer points were only 221. Now it had increased by 3. In other words, for every giant dragon Lei Ren killed, he would get the corresponding Dragon Slayer points. The system's actions were too humane. The system stood up at the right time and showed its existence. Frowny face after the host has practiced any giant dragon technique or battle technique for at least 10 days. The system will recognize the host as a teacher-student relationship. The giant dragons killed by the host students are also counted as killed by the host, and the corresponding Dragon Slayer points can be obtained. And this is good. With students, he wouldn't have to kill those giant dragons himself in the future. The giant dragons they killed would be counted as his Dragon Slayer points. It seemed like he should take in a few more students in the future. He was still too strong now and had to slowly collect Dragon Slayer points to increase his strength. And if he took in some students and let them kill giant dragons, it wouldn't arouse the suspicion of other giant dragons. Chapter 583. After Lei Ren killed the 3 dragon bandits, he looked at the bloody scene in front of him and felt his stomach churn. Ugh! He vomited out the New Year's dinner. At this moment, the dragon bandits in the cave heard the fighting sounds outside. They felt that something was wrong and stood out one by one. Among these dragon bandits, the one with the highest realm was a rank 5 evolved dragon. There were also 5 rank 1 and 2 evolved dragons. The remaining 40 or so were all rank 8 and 9 ordinary dragons. They came outside the cave. They saw 2 people standing outside the cave. A guy in black clothes was standing not far away looking at them calmly. The other guy was covered in blood and was bent over, vomiting non-stop. Not far away from his feet, there were 3 piles of blurred flesh. They immediately understood what had happened. How dare you kill my brother, you're courting death. One of the Type 1 evolved dragons roared and pounced towards Lei Ren. Lei Ren was vomiting and didn't even have time to wipe his mouth. But when he heard the rank 1 evolved dragon pouncing over, his right arm instantly transformed into a dragon claw. At the same time, the dragon claw contained the power of lightning. Whoosh! With one strike, the rank 1 evolved dragon was directly split into two from head to toe. When he tried to heal himself, Lei Ren's sharp claws waved and turned him into meat paste in a short time. This time he didn't vomit again. He roared at the other dragon bandits like a madman, "Come on!" The lower-level dragon bandits all looked at each other. What a joke, a rank 1 evolved dragon was instantly killed by a claw. If they still went up, wouldn't they be courting death? That bandit leader was the strongest rank 5 evolved dragon among these dragon bandits. When he saw this scene, his anger rushed to the top of his head. Preposterous. Die for me. As he said that, a flame sword condensed in his right hand and directly pierced at Lei Ren. Although Lei Ren was 3 ranks lower than him, he was a thunder attribute dragon after all. In terms of speed, he was already comparable to the bandit leader. He dodged this attack and condensed lightning in his right hand. However, his lightning didn't condense into a form. Instead, it looked very messy. The bandit leader snorted coldly. Most people would panic when they encountered a thunder attribute dragon. After all, the thunder attribute was known for its high explosive power and destructive power. However, he had a wealth of combat experience. He knew the weakness of the thunder attribute. Its energy was unstable and it was difficult to condense and take form. This prevented the lightning attribute energy from unleashing its full power. Therefore, his flaming sword did not stop and continued to stab at Lei Ren's vital points. City Lord's Mansion. Due to the obstruction of the forest, Madame Lei and Lei Ming were unable to see what their son and Senior Mo were doing in the forest. They were all a little anxious. The bandit leader's attacks were extremely fierce. While Lei Ren was in the process of condensing the lightning attribute energy, he did not have the time to release it. At this time, Lei Ren had already jumped out of the forest in order to avoid that guy's attack. The bandit leader chased after them in the air. Madame Lei's heart skipped a beat when she saw her son being attacked so fiercely by a fire attribute giant dragon. Lei Ming's heart trembled. Even the Class 3 or Class 4 dragons under his command might not be able to withstand such a violent attack. However, at this time he was too far away to help. He could only comfort his wife and himself. With Senior Mo by my side, my son will be fine. At this moment, the two of them were constantly moving in the air. It seemed that Lei Ren could only parry and had no strength to fight back. The dragon bandits below also jumped onto the branches and watched the battle in the air. Seeing that their boss was completely suppressing that guy and was about to take him down in minutes, they raised their fists and shouted, "Kid, you dare to challenge our boss, aren't you courting death? This guy's level is at most Class 2 or Class 3. He actually dared to challenge our boss 2 or 3 levels above him. Hee hee. There's a saying that a newborn calf is not afraid of a dragon. It's probably referring to this guy. He doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. This guy, he can't even condense his energy and actually dares to challenge our boss. He's simply tired of living." Just as they were discussing in the sky, the unstable lightning attribute energy in Lei Ren's hand suddenly swung at the bandit leader. However, it was unknown whether it was because the lightning attribute energy was too unstable or because this guy was too weak. Under this attack, the lightning attribute energy did not hit at all. Instead, it flew past Lei Ren's body and flew directly into the sky. The dragon bandits below could not help but laugh. "This guy is here to be funny, isn't he? He's not just funny. I don't know where this funny guy came from. He saw that we're not having any fun hiding in the deep mountains and forests, so he's here to relieve our boredom." Seeing this scene, the bandit leader could not help but laugh. "A kid like you dares to challenge the heroes of our Dragon Gate Mountain?" However, at this moment, everyone was stunned. After the lightning attribute energy was swung out, it actually quickly expanded in the sky. Then it condensed into a lightning attribute dragon. This lightning attribute dragon was 100 meters long and was surrounded by lightning. It looked extremely powerful. Especially when it appeared, a few clouds in the sky seemed to be faintly stirred. The bandit leader's heart skipped a beat. Before the thought could finish flashing through his mind, the dragon in the sky suddenly swooped down at him. The bandit leader knew that this was not good and was about to dodge. However, that dragon was a lightning attribute dragon. Its speed was far faster than any other dragon. Almost instantly, it blasted onto the bandit leader. A glaring blue-white light instantly lit up. Dozens of lightning bolts spread out from the bandit leader's body and blasted onto the dragon bandits on the tree below. Crack, crack, crack. Almost every tree that the dragon bandits were on was directly split into two and caught on fire. These dragon bandits were all struck to the ground. As for the bandit leader in the sky, he was like a black stone that had been burned into black smoke and fell diagonally from the sky with black smoke. The bandit leader was directly killed and did not get up again. As for the other dragon bandits, although they were still breathing, they were not breathing anymore. With one attack, an opponent that was 3 ranks higher was instantly killed. When Madame Lei and Lei Ming saw this scene, they were greatly shocked. Their son was already so strong? Although they had watched their son being trained by Senior Mo for the past few months. They also knew that the power of this move was extremely strong. However, when their son really used this move and killed an opponent that was 3 ranks higher than him, the couple still felt that it was unbelievable. Especially when dealing with a star beast cub and a dragon were 2 completely different concepts. A star beast cub's self-healing ability was not as strong as a dragon's. It was really very difficult to kill a giant dragon. Sometimes, the speed at which you heard it might not be as fast as its self-healing speed. And now, their son had instantly killed an opponent that was 3 ranks higher than him with 1 attack. While they were shocked, they were also very grateful to Immorse. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.